Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about sometimes all we really need to do is find that one accessory lift that will feed our primary exercise to make it go up. And our primary exercise, is most likely one of the big three, but not necessarily. Obviously I'm not talking about Olympic lifting, which is its own beast. But in general, most of us, a squat, bench, deadlift is going to be a primary lift. Now, it could be an overhead press for you. You might be competing in strongman and you have to do, the log press, right? Or push press, or strength lifting, and it might be the strict press. We could count a row as a primary exercise. I think that's fair. You could count a chin up as a primary exercise. The movements that you utilize the most as your base movement. And when they get stuck, sometimes we need accessory work to bring them up, to bring up the weakest link. In fact, I'm not going to say sometimes. I'm going to say if we're not a novice, we should generally be doing this. And so, in this case, I have me just kind of doing deadlifting and benching in this video. But I'm kind of throw in what I do for supplemental work, because I think in this clip you guys see me doing a 365 bench. There's a 325 with a triple. But what do I do to feed that? Well, a lot of it was doing pause benching. I'm not sure where I'll be at the time this video comes out, but I was doing a lot of pause benching. Right? But all my maxes were paused. So all that rep work, does it really count as an accessory? No, it's just a mass builder. Just using it to get bigger and to bring the bench press up. Bench press is a good mass builder in and of itself. But what was I doing to feed it, to supplement it? Outside of the pause benching, I was doing lots of JM presses, because ultimately, here's what I would find. If I did lots and lots and lots of pause benching, I can get the weight moving. But I needed to have triceps to follow through. And this is not to say we don't need shoulders and then biceps and things and other stabilizers. Those things all matter. But where do we put our real work? Where's the meat and potatoes? Well, the thing that, again, I started finding is that the more I practiced lots of pause benching, and I'm talking all my rep work, especially things like 8, 10, 12 rep range, mostly 10s, doing all that pause benching, and particularly longer pauses near the end of sets, sometimes taking a 2 or 3 second pause as it would start to get grindy near the end. I started finding I could get the weight moving fast off my chest on a bench, but I needed the ability to follow through. Well, in that case, my pecs were getting worked a lot at the bottom from the pause work. So I needed triceps to follow through. And in that case, pushing the JM press up seemed to have great carryover. It doesn't have to be a strict JM press. That's not the strictest JM press in the world. But just get strong at it. We're not even talking about just getting big. We're not talking about using always a single joint movement just to bring something up, although that can work. But the carryover is much, much slower when you do that. It really is. Right? That carryover takes a long time to transfer. Not that that's a bad thing, because we are playing the long game. But that's usually the case. What about with a deadlift? I found at different points I could feed my deadlift with things like reverse hypers. And I always liked the glute ham raise, and I always felt it helped my deadlift. Right? I always felt that it did. But it really almost is just a safety and stability exercise in a lot of ways. And that's kind of a different topic. It makes the deadlift safer. But over here you see me doing one of my training maxes with 605. Yeah, I'm decently strong for a guy closing in on 50. Not too bad. But, what movements feed that? Because I don't do deadlift volume. Unlike the bench, where I come in to do lots of benching, I don't do a lot of deadlifting. So what movements carry over? I've always found the reverse hyper. I've always found the reverse hyper to give good carryover. But I've also found the glute bridge too also. And I can actually say that if I were to really, really narrow it down, Rows and stuff and pull-ups have always helped as far as maintaining a good bar path and positioning. So I don't want to discount those, but I would say something like a glute bridge. I have found that when my deadlift stalls, I tend to be weakest and miss lifts right below the knee. Well, what's going on with the glutes and the hip transition right there? What can help with that? Well, a glute bridge or a hip thrust. So again, I have oftentimes found that when I get to that point, I can add glute bridges in and start pushing past that sticking point and just start getting stronger. It feeds the deadlift. And here's kind of the point that I'm making to a lot of people. You could build your programs around these. You can take a lot of these movements and say, I can train this primary movement and I don't need 5, 6, 7 accessories at a time. You really don't. Because again, unless you're just going to keep pumping more and more and more drugs, when you get stronger, you have limited recovery from training. We need to be looking at saying, what's going to give me the best carryover? Because you're going to get big anyways. If you get strong at all these movements and you're doing volume for some supplemental lifts, you're going to get big. Show me anyone who benches 350 and deadlifts 600, squats 500 who's not big. Come on. Right? Get real. But we need to be doing that hypertrophy work. I'm not saying we don't do hypertrophy, but let's come over and look at a lot of that. Finding those movements that will keep you progressing. And a lot of times they're bigger exercises. All right? For your squat, what might they be? Now it depends on where you're weakest. Are you needing more quad? Or are you having a hip extension issue? Okay? You may only need a leg press or a belt squat or a split squat to bring up your lower body to feed the squat. But if you have a hip extension issue, you might find the good morning gives the best carryover. Okay? Find where you are weakest and find a big movement that can feed it. Find a big movement that can feed it. You might find at your rows and your pull-ups that your lats are lacking. So it's something simple like a lat pull down. But you could find your biceps or forearms are also a limit, in which case maybe a barbell curl or a hammer curl. Maybe you need to get them moving. Again, shoring up the weak links. Shoring up your weak links. And sometimes it only takes us adding one movement. So let's say your program is built around squat, bench, deadlift, rows. It's pretty common. Find an exercise that feeds your weakest link in each of those 4 and add that to your program. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.